eye rollers, phone checkers, clock watchers, naysayers. There's all types of people that walk into your room, and your job as a connector, facilitator, trainer, educator, leader is to ideally win over those folks. I have spent the last 10 years, I think, becoming a professional arms uncrosser. I have walked into rooms with well over 100,000 people over the last 10 years. Many of them have had their arms very crossed because their boss made them go, or whatever reason, they were not excited to be there in that moment. And it was my job to cast them an invitation that invited them to uncross their arms and actually really engage and contribute and participate. And so in this video, I'm going to share the 3 best methods that I know to uncross people's arms and get reluctant participants to really engage and hop in. The first method I'm going to share is only 2 words. The second method I have found to be as wise as a centurion. There is a way that when I heard this phrase that I'm going to share with you, something in me just clicked and I got it, and it changed the way that I communicate with people and it changed the way that I see people. And the third is a core ideology that shifts the way that groups engage and participate in whatever you are planning. My absolute favorite movie, and the movie that actually inspired, well, I thought I was going to be a doctor. Tell me how the audio on this is, Steven. We're going to go old school, just holding up a laptop to share. Patch Adams. This is how we avoid copyright laws. It's a 1-minute clip of Patch Adams. I want you to just watch the clip, but all 3 methods that I'm going to share with you, the core of them for me is articulated in this scene.
Preview of coming attraction. There's death, to die, to expire, to pass on, to perish, to peg out, to push up daisies, to push up posies, to become extinct, curtains, deceased, demised, departed and defunct. Dead as a doornail, dead as a herring, dead as a mutton, dead as nits. The last breath, paying a debt to nature, the big sleep. God's way of saying, slow down.
Check out.
To shuffle off this mortal coil.
To head for the happy hunting ground.
To blink for an exceptionally long period of time.
To find oneself without breath.
To be the incredible decaying man.
Warm buffet.
Kick the bucket.
By the farm.
Take the cab.
Cash in your chips.
And if we bury your ass up, we have a place to park my bike.
So this was the context, right? This is a terminally ill patient. The smartest and best clinicians could not get this guy to eat. There is not a medical textbook on the planet that says walk into a terminally ill patient's room and start firing off idioms about death to them. But Patch Adams, Robin Williams in the movie, walked in and I think had such a deep level of empathy for what it must be like to be terminally ill and to be that guy. And so he took a chance. He took what I would say is a positive social risk to drop right into this deep level of empathy. So here's the first method. Oftentimes, I find that people are reluctant or arms crossed because they expect to have to do something they don't want to do. And they expect that somebody is going to push or cajole or nudge or encourage them to do something that they don't want to do. And that, the word for that is manipulation. Right? I haven't met a person on the planet who likes to be manipulated or pushed. And so the way to completely eradicate manipulation is this. Get really clear about what your intention is and share it with the other person. For example, if you're hosting an offsite and the group is thinking, I just have a lot of work. I wish that I didn't have to be here, and I wish I could be back doing my work. That's what they care about, right? They care about the time crunch and the pressure, et cetera. And so your intention might be, I want to dive into strategy. I want to spend some time working on the business, not in the business. It might be team building. You want the group to actually just connect and bond. And all of those intentions, I'm going to say they're not intentions yet. Those are goals. Strategize, team build, review quarterly numbers, whatever you've got, right? Whatever your goal is, Here's how you stretch it into an intention and eradicate manipulation. You add ... so that to the end of your sentence. So hey everybody, we've invited you to, so everybody's at the offsite and their arms are crossed. The first thing you can do is get clear about your intent and stretch it with a so that to include what they actually care about. And so, hey everybody, I know that you're really busy. I wanted to block off this day to dive into strategy so that 6 months from now, you don't feel nearly as stressed and overwhelmed as you do right now, so that if we did an offsite, you wouldn't actually be worried about all the work piled up for you. Do you see how that's so that? Right after the so that, I'm inserting a currency that they care about. It has to be honest, right? You can't lie to people, because then that is manipulative. But it's being empathetic enough to know, well, people might not be walking around thinking, I'd love a day of strategy today. They're thinking like, want to do my stuff, go home, etc. And so when you empathize enough to know what they care about and you add it to the so that, really phenomenal leaders win over reluctant participants by learning to speak a second language, and it is the language of intent. And their intents end in so that. And in their emails, in their email invitations, when somebody gets a email invite, meaning you have to show up or you're fired, kind of mandatory invite, there's a so that intention. Ideally, that includes the currency of what somebody else cares about. Even if your Wi-Fi cut out right now, if you only just learn to speak the language of intent and you add so that to a whole bunch of your sentences, you will begin to very genuinely, non-manipulatively uncross people's arms. Method number 2 to win over reluctant folks. Embody this sentence. Someone much more grounded than me once said, behind every complaint is a longing. Your eye rollers, phone checkers, clock watchers, and naysayers are all in that place with a complaint. And that is this surface level thing that is really low hanging fruit, easy, and sometimes even work cultures bond over complaints. But you are the grounded leader, the connector, there to inspire and make connection easy for folks. And so you see that complaint and you're like, yeah, I got it. I care about you, not about the complaint. I care about you. So right beneath that complaint, what is the longing? And speak directly to that. Don't even speak to the complaint. Speak directly to the longing, or ask about the longing. And so one really super practical way to articulate this is if you've got a particularly grumpy group, and let me be clear, there are plenty of things to complain about in life and at work. And so it can be very empathetic and honoring to say to a group, hey, you know what? Somebody much more grounded than me said, behind every complaint is a longing. And so I know there's a heap of things right now in our organization to be frustrated by. And I wonder, like right underneath that, what is the longing beneath that complaint? And as connection before content, I'd love to just divide up into groups of 3. And instead of just stopping at the complaint, go one layer deeper. What's the longing underneath that? And can you share that with a group? And in 12 minutes from now, I'll popcorn some of these out. And my intent today, right, you ready? So that intention coming, is to hear some of those longings. And my intent for the rest of our time today is to hear some of those longings and actually with everything we have planned out today, to actually move a bit closer toward that. Here's the third method, and then I've got one final gold standard to share with you as far as group engagement goes. So the third method is this phrase that I learned in the experiential adventure education realm and world called challenge by choice. And really simply, it is that my framing of it is reminding people that they have 100% choice and autonomy in how they engage. Now, if they're at work and they're being paid to be there, they might not have a choice if they engage, right? So it's not about sitting on the sidelines. The challenge by choice is not about sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing. It's about choosing how you participate and engage. Super tangible example here. I could ask you, what is one of your favorite topics of conversation? And you could say, French fries. And if you like talking about French fries, that could be true. And I could also say, what is one of your favorite topics of conversation? And you could say, honestly, lately, I had somebody close to me pass away, and I'm thinking a lot about how I spend my time and my own mortality. It's like, whoa, like 2 totally different levels of response. And this is a green card, fun and light questions, right? It is unbelievably empowering to remind people of their own autonomy and choice, because sometimes we get in a rut where we feel like we don't have any. and there's a facilitator at the front of the room who's making us do stuff. It's like, actually, you have an immense amount of freedom in how you choose to engage, starting with how you choose to respond to questions, how you choose to engage and participate in conversations. You can take this to the 202 level by, as a leader and as a facilitator, creating those options or choices. So if I'm gonna do a giant question swap with people, and I know the room's gonna get loud, and if I know there's some people in the crowd with some sort of neurodivergence going on or some social anxiety, and this is gonna wig them out, as a facilitator, I really say, hey, we're gonna do this question swap. If that makes you a little nervous, that's good, right? That means we're learning. If that freaks you out and terrifies you, my invite would be, put on your headphones if you'd like, sit in the corner and just take notes. Be an observer of the group. And after this, I'd love to check in with you on just what you noticed, what you observed, and possibly after lunch, share that out with the group. So do you see how I just opened up one other very obvious, clear avenue of choice to include somebody that otherwise may have felt included? And so challenge by choice is a really beautiful way to say, speak to a particular kind of niche or group in your audience. So oftentimes, folks that are reluctant when I'm working with them in an organization are the ones that have worked there for 30 years and know everything and have tried everything, and every new idea is wrong. They're like ultimate arms crossed. And so I might speak to them specifically and say, hey, if you've been here for 30 years and you've kind of seen it all going up and down, as we're in these discussions, can you specifically just make a point to have a notepad and jot down some insights that you have related to this topic or idea? Because I'd love to have you share them out with the large group afterward. So do you see that? I just put somebody in the position of their own expertise. And if I want to include another group that might be terrified instead of grumpy, is the folks that are the first 3 months on the job, and this is their first gathering with a group of people. I might say, hey, if you're new to the group or you're less experienced than the rest of the group, can you get a notepad? And can you take notes? You bring something very valuable to this group, and that is a fresh perspective. You don't have the curse of knowledge or the politics or all the dynamics and stuff that gets in the way. And so can you just take some notes and observations about what you see, because that insight is gonna be worth your annual salary potentially. And so take a couple notes, and at the end of this exercise, we'll have a chance to share. So do you see how that challenge by choice, like opening up avenues of inclusion all along as we go? Little contentious political commercial break here. I choose to be quite apolitical on this channel, and I'm going to continue choosing to be apolitical because I want to include all perspectives. But as I'm observing this war on inclusion and diversity of thought, I can see both sides and arguments. But if you think about the last 30 seconds of what I just shared, someone in a room with a unique perspective that can add value to a group, I just really simply want to include them, like period. And so when I say inclusion, it's like, I don't want possibility to just get flushed down the toilet as we go. And so when I say inclusion, when I think diversity of thought, etc., I think how can we add to the possibility and make sure that we're not missing out on something here? That's as political as I'm going to get for the rest of the day. Super clever bonus idea. This is, for me, the gold standard of group engagement. It is shifting the ownership to the participant. So they're not waiting for you to impress them or to teach them something or anything else. They've taken ownership over their own learning. So two hyper-practical ways that you can shift ownership to a participant. Number one, you can ask them, silent, anonymous question to reflect on. How much do you intend to participate in your own learning today? Rate that on a scale of 1 to 7 in your head. 1 being, I'm gonna sit back and totally be checked out. 7, I'm all in, I'm fully present, I'm here. As soon as they have that silent rating, you can say, great, you've just made a pretty significant decision about how your day will go, regardless of what I do in here. If at any point in time you're not satisfied with your day, you're welcome to bump up your number by a notch or 2. So that's fairly direct and confronting. A alumni of the Engage to Educate course that I teach once a year had a much more lovely way of doing this, and really simply inviting participants to essentially to fill in this sentence. I would love to learn more about blank. And so she framed it in the context of today. So today, here's the umbrella of our time, here's our purpose. I would really love to learn more about blank. And what Mary told me is, I saw people leaning in. They were all of a sudden, they were actually like trying to learn more about the thing. The questions they were asking were related to that thing that they put here. And so that also can really shift the ownership over to folks. And this unsponsored video is, I suppose, now sponsored by the We Connect sticker name tags. Ben on my team, who's also my brother, figured out a way to like list them right under the videos now. So I think you can like see them somewhere under there. That's kind of cool. Okay, goodbye.